Hey everyone, just wanted to quickly mention that I've started to upload some lore videos touching on information surrounding Knights of the Old Republic and other Star Wars games over on our gaming channel, Star Wars Gaming Club. Our most recent video goes through the rise of Darth Sidious, explaining how he became the Lord of Pain and his role in fighting the Great Sith War and other wars in the era. I have a lot of lore videos planned for the upcoming Jedi Fallen Order game as well, in addition to the regular gaming news and gameplay videos, so if you want to check it out, that would be very much appreciated. A link to the Darth Sidious video and the gaming channel will be within the description and a pinned comment below. Thank you for the support everyone, and I hope that you enjoyed today's video. In carrying out the Clone War and the machinations necessary to bring about the Sith Grand Plan, there was perhaps no greater apprentice available to the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious, than Dooku. As a leader of the Separatists, Sidious gained in Dooku someone who carried respect and a reputation capable of rallying numerous systems to their cause. And as a Sith Apprentice, Sidious gained one of the Jedi Order's most successful achievements, already exceptionally strong in the Force and one of the Order's greatest lightsaber duelists. Until the time that Anakin Skywalker was prepared to join the Sith, the thought of Sidious replacing Dooku is difficult to imagine. However, there was another powerful user of the dark side available to Sidious should he so choose to train a new apprentice during the era of the Clone War, someone who Dooku himself would enlist to become one of his most capable dark acolytes. This, of course, would be Asajj Ventress. The Sith Rule of Two dictated that a master would take only one apprentice at a time, and while the path of Dooku enlisting Asajj as his Sith apprentice to overthrow Sidious was explored in the Clone Wars TV series within Star Wars canon, the idea of Sidious perhaps replacing Dooku with Asajj is much more interesting in my opinion. Fortunately, the Legends lore did provide a few of Sidious's own thoughts on why Asajj wouldn't make a good Sith apprentice for himself. And based on Sidious's methods and goals with Darth Vader, I believe we can say why Sidious didn't allow Asajj Ventress to join the Order of the Sith Lords as his apprentice. Turning to Jedi vs. Sith, an essential guide to the Force, Sidious's writings discussing his thoughts of Asajj Ventress as Dooku's Dark Acolyte are quite complimentary. Although it's not too surprising, given her impressive achievements during the Clone War, Sidious does note that Ventress was a profoundly capable warrior at times. In fact, she had earned the lightsabers bestowed upon her by Dooku, those that had once belonged to Dooku's previous Padawan, Komari Vosa. Not only that, Sidious was completely aware of the fact that Ventress was about as much of a Sith aspirant as he had ever seen, someone who wanted nothing more than to join the Sith. However, Sidious's writings also completely detail why her desire to join the Sith could never materialize. Although Sidious found her to be a great warrior, that was about all she was in the eyes of the Dark Lord. Sidious found her history and the actions she was prone to take because of it to be a complete barrier to joining the Sith. In this regard, Sidious was referring to Ventress's hatred of the Jedi, and in particular, the intensity in which it manifested, which all too often blinded her to larger considerations and made her tactless, a warrior who allowed rage to strip them of any cleverness and ingenuity. In the era of the Rule of Two, where the Sith were defined by cunning and manipulating events from the shadows, these qualities were abhorrent in a potential apprentice, and thus, Sidious could only find it delusional on the part of Ventress in that she allowed herself to believe she was Dooku's Sith apprentice. This information from the Jedi vs. Sith guide demonstrates that despite the lack of scenes directly involving Ventress and Sidious, the Dark Lord of the Sith had a clear understanding about her, having clearly looked into her background. Best revealed in the Star Wars Republic comic issue number 60, the background and origins of Asajj Ventress' story isn't too dissimilar from the canon story developed in the Clone Wars TV series. But this issue shows that Sidious was exactly right in his assessments. In the Republic comic, it's revealed that in growing up on the planet of Ratatak, Asajj Ventress knew only war. When her parents began to assemble a massive army to confront the reigning warlord Osika Kursk, Kursk murdered them before they could become a real threat. While Asajj escaped, she too would have been executed if only she hadn't been saved by a Jedi who happened to land on the planet and intervene. Together, having found her to be powerful in the Force, Ventress and her new master rallied their own armies and became heroes in their pursuit to end the devastating wars. However, Asajj Ventress' path on the light side of the Force would end when her Jedi Master was killed in a plot orchestrated by Kursk. After this moment, Ventress would again assemble an army, but this time to wage war on the warlords of Ratatak, killing and capturing any who opposed her. And importantly, as she would reveal to Obi-Wan in Republic issue number 60, she blamed the Jedi Order for these events, believing it was the Jedi who failed her master. Demonstrating how consumed Ventress was by her past and her hatred of the Jedi, she would watch Obi-Wan depart with her master's lightsabers with tears streaming down her face, dropping her own lightsabers as she walked away from the duel with Obi-Wan in anguish. Sidious understood that Asajj Ventress's intense hatred of the Jedi through this path, in a way, broke her, leaving her to fulfill a role not as a Sith, but as a rage-fueled warrior. Now, it does almost seem contradictory in some way that the Dark Lord of the Sith, who's years away from eradicating the Jedi Order and all its members in a secret assassination plot, and who served as the master to one of the greatest Jedi hunters in galactic history, would reject an apprentice because they hated the Jedi too much. However, this is perfectly in line with Sidious's philosophy regarding the dark side and his mentorship of Vader. One of the greatest insights into Sidious's approach to the dark side is seen in the novel Star Wars Rebel Force Target. Having just heard the news that the Death Star had been destroyed by the Rebellion, Sidious recognized that his rage threatened to burst within him, where he could have used the full power of his anger to unleash a fireball of death, destroying everything and everyone around him. But Sidious didn't. Speaking to his mastery of the dark side, he chose to wait. While the Jedi never truly understood the dark side, Sidious knew that rage, hatred, and anger were only a beginning, for it was the control of these emotions that was the key to the power of the Sith. Patience and control would allow the user to channel their rage and bend it to their will. Therefore, a Sith had to become a master of their anger, not a product of it, hoarding it for a time when it was needed most. Despite Vader's power and infamous reputation for hunting and killing Jedi, these were still lessons Sidious attempted to get Vader to understand as well, eventually succeeding in its most important ways. As Vader would give in to his rage all too easily in the earliest days after Order 66, unleashing his rage on minor things like a droid improperly repairing his suit, Sidious would tell his apprentice, "I'm aware of the suit's limitations and of the exasperation you must be experiencing, but anger is wasted on the droid. You must reserve your rage for times when you can profit from it." Looking to ensure that Vader didn't fall into a Ventress-like trap of allowing his hatred of the Jedi to make him blind and tactless in regard to other important Sith and Imperial considerations, comics like Purge and Dark Times Blue Harvest show Sidious attempting to do everything he can to get Vader to forget about the Jedi, instead trying to get him to understand that they meant nothing to them. Relative to Vader, Sidious found Asajj Ventress to be beyond repair in this regard, or at least without any other accompanying benefits that would allow him to look past these weaknesses. But regardless, within the Legends lore, Sidious rejected Asajj Ventress as a potential Sith Apprentice, given that her intense hatred of the Jedi too often blinded her and made her tactless, despite her valuable skills as a warrior. So there we have it, why Sidious didn't take Asajj Ventress as his Sith Apprentice. Thank you very much to all of the Patreon members of Star Wars Reading Club, as your support is so greatly appreciated. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can find a link to it in the description below, along with all of our social media links and a link to our Star Wars gaming channel. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me... for even getting Sidious to think you went too far.